Are you ready, everybody? A tricky week coming up. There's no new moon, full moon, or anything like that. But we have that Uranus T-square that's aging out. That energy's still there. But we have a lot of oppositions. And before we get started, we're going to need to do our surfing. This week's going to be tricky mainly because of the oppositions, the T-squares, and all those inconjuncts that we were talking about before. So here's our summary slide, and I've got to get my highlighter out, so hang on. All right, so what we have is our standard astrology circle here. It's filled with, I probably should have taken the Uranus T-square on there, but we still have the Uranus square Saturn. And that's a big factor all throughout 2021. It's the wearing down of the status quo. It's the wearing down of things that have always been. Basically, because of this energy, there never will be going back to normal. And it's basically a fight on what the new normal is going to be. That's really the only question. So we have still a bunch of retrograde planets. Sun in Cancer opposed Pluto. That's the one that's highlighted today because of all the other influences that we'll talk about. I didn't want to mention the T-squares here. We're going to go through those day by day. Those are going to be relevant to each day. It's a little lower congruency score, but it's a hidden influence. And the influence down here in the red is basically representing this thin little tiny overlap with all three circles. And it's a tiny one, meaning that it's really hidden. It's like a diamond in the haystack or a needle in the haystack. I know you're not supposed to mix those metaphors up, but whatever. Dreambot, we're going to go through that here first. And that's interesting. It's like two different worlds colliding in the Dreambot. And we have the I-Ching. This is pleasant, easy progress. And back to the astrology, you're going to notice that the only easy stuff about this week in terms of astrology is a really hidden, quiet trine between the Sun and Neptune. And that's with, remember, the Sun oppose Pluto. That's the rebirth of self. And the reason we have hidden is for two reasons. Number one, we're talking about Pluto, which is a very deeply subconscious thing. So that's the first factor. But plus Neptune, that's a really far out planet. That's part of the subconscious as well. But more importantly, we have the easy part is not really, when you look at the astrology, and this will be more apparent later when we talk about just the astrology, there doesn't look like there's much easy about it. And there's only one real consistent trine in there that we're going to discuss. And that's where this I-Ching is pointing us to. And it's connected to the Sun opposed Pluto. And hence the overall influence is going to be something that many of us are going to subconsciously be subjected to. Most of us are not going to be aware of it even, but you're going to be rebirthing self. You're going to be reorchestrating your identity, and it's going to be an overhaul, and you may not even know it. So what you want to do is sort of take a snapshot of baseline this week, and then check in with yourself next week and see if this was right. See if you're, the real deep part of you, either maybe not wants, desires, maybe not life mission, but the core identity part of you might be changed, might be reconstructed at the end of this. And it's a low congruency score just because that overlap is really tiny. All right, I'm going to talk about the Dreambot before we get into our transition. All right, this is really interesting. First of all, there's 124 words that have surged, that have positive surge scores, meaning that their frequency of these words have increased in the last week. And that's a lot. Normally it's around 20 to 30 words. There's 124. and the surge scores themselves are very, very high. So there's a lot of changing going on, a lot of adjusting, and there's no accident there, as you're going to see in the astrology. But there's a lot of adjusting in the psyche, in the collective psyche. And that adjustment is going towards this sort of battle between, I don't want to say it's a battle. There's not a lot of conflict in here. There is the word fighting, but it's just a other world, other side, the spirit world versus 3D reality. And it doesn't have to be a fight. It's just both are there in the dream bot. Which one is higher? Well, there's more of the 3D reality in here, but the church is probably more that could go either way, really. Come to think of it, churches could be the physical part of this. That could be more of the 3D reality, but it also very could be the spiritual side of things. So I don't know. It's really just both worlds together in one run. I don't know. You all can interpret that the way you want to interpret it, but let's get into the astrology next. All right. How'd you like that change? I don't know if that's better or worse, but I wanted to take a break here, talk about some comments. This brought to you by Carla Watson Photography. Carla was a contributor, donator, and I really appreciate that, Carla. So this comment section is brought to you by Carla Watson Photography. Let us see it now. Says that, can you clarify the Telegram channel? Yeah. So real quick, I talked about this in the last comments, but a lot of you probably didn't see it. Telegram has the main page. That's when you click on the link below in the comment section of this video, click on the Telegram link, and it'll take you to what should be a forum where only I can post, but you can comment on. Anybody can comment on there. Now, the way that Telegram sets it up, apparently, is that when you hit, when I enable comments, it establishes another chat forum. And so when you click on comments, it takes you to that other chat forum, and you can actually subscribe to the chat forum. And when you do, you actually get everybody's comments all the time. So it's just depending on what you want. Do you want just my posts, or do you want to see everybody's comments? We're having a good time over there for the folks who are in. It's only like 5 or 6 folks over there in the chat room, but you can subscribe to both. Some people just subscribe to the comment chat room, and that way they see both my posts and the people who've commented. So it really just depends on what you want. Telegram is weird like that, but at least it's working pretty well. QB says, I would love more information on your intermittent fasting regimen. Well, I just got done with a 48-hour fast, and a lot of times we do that because we just overload our systems with carbs, maybe on a weekend, just too much. And there's some other benefits of 48-hour fast, including stem cell regrowth, mainly in the intestines and brain, but also you get a maximum bump in HGH, human growth hormone, on 48 hours of no food. Most of the days, my standard day is no food, just water and tea is not sweetened. And it's mainly green tea and some other like dandelion root and some other like star anise and some other things. That's all the way up until my workout. Normally work out in the afternoon, which is in a fasted state, and then I'll either eat or not eat. And apparently you can still get a insulin bump through your workout, and really arguably don't even need a post-workout shake. So if I do have a post-workout shake, very, very little protein, and mostly just some superfoods that I want into my cells, like spirulina, bee pollen, MSM, things that are more important to me than growing, or maybe not even growing muscle, like used to be creatine and all sorts of other things, but those tend to be toxic to kidneys and So I got rid of those and just putting good stuff into my body in and around the workout time. All right. So it's a 1 meal a day thing, OMAD, and it seems to work really great. Now we come off of that on the weekends. It's not that I feed my face entirely, but we eat more throughout the day so that my body doesn't get used to this not eating until like 4 or 6 or 8 p.m. in the evening, which is most days. I can go on to another show for this if you want more details. Milos, how are you? I thought it was important to give a shout out to Milos because he added a very in there. He said very, very good and detailed report. Milos, good friend. Hope you're doing well over there in the further east. Ravi says, well, lots of good things in here and talks about her sort of life purpose, but for all of us, she says, we should avoid the negative and fearful naysayers out there and surround ourselves with positive people in the higher vibrations so that we can manifest this new beginning and hopefully end this ridiculous movie and not laugh out loud. I think that's a very important statement. Surround yourself with positive people, and truly authentic positive people. I think that's the other important thing to include here. Last comment. I had a really weird dream, and the nuts and the bolts, I thought it was hilarious, but had me really thinking about using this somehow. In the dream, I saw a sign that says social distanced. So it sounds like distanced, but, and we were talking about like-minded people in the dream. We were with like-minded people, and someone had this comment. Yeah, isn't that funny? We use the word dissonanced. I've never seen that before. So you can use that freely if you want, but it's referring to obviously cognitive dissonance. We have never in human species have seen the level of cognitive dissonance in and around everywhere, media, friends. It is through the roof, cognitive dissonance. And the programming is ridiculous because they'll throw. These people are clearly programmed with two contradictory ideas, and yet they shove everything out as if it's fact. Whatever. All right, let's move on. Astrology. There it is. Saturn square Uranus is changing things up still. That'll be throughout this year. Nothing happening with Mercury yet. Next week, or towards the end of next CIRF week, he'll be going into Leo. Just after we end this week, Sun will be going into Leo. The big news is this is the bulk of our adjustments. And when people adjust, people are forced to adjust, it creates stress. And so we're going to talk about that in the solution section. So not only do we have inconjuncts, but we have 3 days of T-squares. Why are they not up in here? Because I don't have any moon aspects. This list would be way too long if I did. And the moon, as it whips around these shapes, creates traps, creates T-squares. So realize that. A lot of tension, and those aren't hidden. You're going to feel the tension, pressure, some more of that, and it's going to be in the emotional side of things. So just be aware of that. Now let's get into our day by day. Thursday, the 15th of July. Can you believe that we're halfway through July already? This is nuts. All right. Now we've been talking about Venus and Mars in Leo, and it's fun energy, and it's exciting, it's childish, it's passionate, it's sexy, all those things. Very, very fun and flirty energy. But it too is adjusting over to Neptune. So it might be an escape, might be fantasy, might be mystic, something mystical. So those things are adjusting to themselves. And that's actually the number 2 energy. The primary energy this week is right here. Sun oppose Pluto. And it's a hidden readjustment of self. Self is the sun, and it's in Cancer. So things like home and protection are important, but also nurturing. And we talked about that last week, where you're sort of sacrificing yourself for the greater good. I don't see that as much this week. I think it's more about this really hidden inner power that's changing who you are, changing your identity. I don't know about really sacrificing this week. You might be, particularly our cancers or cancer risings. Maybe you do feel a little bit more self-sacrificing, but for the general gist of for all of us, I don't know. Maybe not. But I think this whole alignment triangle, you're going to see a Pluto sextile Neptune, and these are two far out planets, so still deep in the subconscious, and this represents an opportunity. And then you have Neptune trine Sun. This is the only non-lunar trine, so the only steady trine. Trine represents easy energy. And remember, the I-Ching said easy progress. Well, the only thing easy in this, it's not here. There's a square. It's not here. Those are inconjuncts. It's not here. Oppositions. It's not even here with the sextiles. It's only to trine. So you have one easy alignment, easy energy, and easy energy going between Sun in Cancer and Neptune in Pisces. And so all that said and done, with this complete triangle represents massive power, massive boost in power, rebirthing power to the individual, to the identity of who you are. But Pluto is also sort of the destroyer, and you might feel like your identity is being destroyed. If you have the consciousness or the awareness of this, then you're on the forefront, because I think this is more of a collective level thing. Who we are as a society, represented by the Sun, is getting overhauled. What it means to be human, as above, so below. What it means to be in this universe, transforming. This is the transformation planet. There's Pluto, death and rebirth. And so you might see a glimpse of the result. And why? Because this is where the opportunity to Neptune comes in. Neptune gives us mysticism, transpersonal insights about what might be coming. Now, the hard part is you don't know what to trust with Neptune, because could be totally false, could be fake, could be like Project Bluebeam, could be Neptune in here. But if it's in your psyche, I like Neptune in Pisces because he's home. He rules Pisces, and this is where magical things happen in that spirit world. So remember the Dreambot, the spirit world versus 3D reality. Well, 3D reality is mainly Taurus, the earth energy, and it's Uranus in there. So it's changing. And then you've got the spirit world is represented here by the trine, and this is represented by the I-Ching, easy progress. And so this is the emphasis here. It's that whole triangle. Tried to explain a lot of it. But in addition, you've got the square. This is that, thoughts and emotions. So thoughts is Mercury and emotions are conflicted here. Great. Wonderful. There's just a little pressure there to stir things up. Meanwhile, your inner child is having to adjust to all this. But so I would concentrate more on the serious matter here, which is your core identity of the of the collective psyche changing and adapting easily. All right. Everything I just said is pretty much staying there, except for whatever I say as far as the moon goes. Those don't necessarily stay very long. Friday the 16th, we have 4 inconjuncts, and these are adjustments, the blue things here, and everything is adjusting. We have a couple of oppositions. We already mentioned the Pluto and Sun. Now we have Venus and Jupiter. So now you're adjusting still to what may or may not be real, at least yet. Premonitions, mysticism. But we also have Venus feeling maybe like exaggerating, going to the extreme. Doesn't have to be, but Jupiter is very optimistic, so it tends to go overboard. It loves what it does. It's very optimistic and positive. And so if it's, say, it's drinking alcohol, if Jupiter's involved in that, then you tend to be excessive with it. Now, this could be a finance thing as well, powering out something financial and maybe a positive. Now, oppositions, remember, are balancing. So you're balancing extremes possibly with finance. Or if you're thinking more along the lines of dating and love and romance, which is very indicated by the Mars and Venus energy still. You're having to balance extremes in that, or being too positive or unrealistic, or freeing. Jupiter's that no attachments thing. So there's sort of an irony there. Venus loves to be attached harmoniously, and Jupiter loves to be unattached. So having those balances together. But the point was, a lot of the inconjuncts are creating adjustments. So overall, the overall energy is adjusting. Saturday, the 17th, there's our first T-square. We're trapped in emotions. That's the emotions of Libra. So the need for harmony and balance, maybe relationship, maybe beauty, or just trapped in just big emotions because you've got conflicts on both sides, squares on both sides of that. And this pressurizes the Sun opposed Pluto. So this emotionally energizes the hidden transformation of ego. Period. Now, you can be trapped in the emotion. If you're trapped in there, I would, normally we'd go to the other side, which is Chiron in Aries. And so help someone else to help yourself would be indicated here. But I like trying to stay on this continuum. That's where I'm going to try to stay as long as I don't get too emotional. But I'm Aquarius, so I don't really get lost in emotions. I might get lost in my thoughts, but not emotions. I can be a good observer. So I have the ability probably to be able to hang out on this transformation line and maybe even be aware of it and proceed with it. We have another inconjunct, Mercury inconjunct Saturn. Those two are adjusting. There'd be thoughts, communication, even short-term travel. By the way, I think I talked about last week about Mercury fresh into Cancer, meaning that mind gets watery, mind gets more, like emotionally vested in others. And so thoughts go that way as well. So it might take a little bit longer to think. Sunday, 18th. Look at all this. I mean, this just a quagmire of just all sorts of stuff. 2 oppositions, 3 oppositions, 3 inconjuncts. We have a T-square on the way things have always been. So that's the pressure on that. It's like a pressure cooker of trying to keep things the same. And what's the one point on here? It's change. All it does is reinvigorate this year-long struggle between change and keeping it the same. And it's just wearing down, wearing it thin. Don't worry about this. Watch yourself. Remember, I said this twice now, as above, so below. So in your microcosm, you're going to feel like things are changing and you don't want them to. So you're going to try to keep it the same. That's the trap, right? So don't be afraid of change. In fact, if you feel yourself in this energy, one thing you can do is plan out tomorrow or the weekend to be much different, like plan it out. And so you're now on the front edge of this change. And that, by the way, was the 18th. So you can get prepared for it by preparing something new on, I guess it's Sunday the 18th. Sorry for scrolling up and down. But getting ready for the weekend, that T-square energy. It is the moon on here completing this T-square, so it's just temporary, very short. And so on Sunday, maybe you just design in your day, schedule something out to be much different, and you don't have to worry about this T-square. Monday the 19th, this is a hangover day. I call it hangover day because T-square and all this mess. And this is why, by the way, I keep forgetting to mention this, but this is why I call it the hidden energy, the sun opposed Pluto, because there's so much going on. You're going to have a hard time really feeling this. And plus it's Pluto. So a lot of other energies that you all out physically feel. This one, you may not really feel it unless you're looking for it, but it's big and it's important. And that's why it's the main energy. Monday, the 19th, we have a lunar T-square with Jupiter and our combo Venus and Mars. And so this could be a very emotionally driven financial day. And, you know, could it go up or down, like the stock market, for example, based on this T-square? I don't know. I think you're going to see if you were to make a play on this. I'm not giving financial advice, but I think the only way to really play that is even with Moon and Scorpio implies sort of maybe more of a pessimistic or passionate sort of an emotion on the markets, but emotional drives on the markets is going to pressurize it one way or the other, up or down. But probably I would bet on not keeping that the same. So I would go long on the, I forget the word now. The instrument that measures change, that measures fears, the fear measurement. I would go long on that. So in other words, you're asking for an increase in volatility. It's a volatility meter. I bet it goes up, but I don't know if the markets go up or down, but probably maybe even both. I know that probably wasn't all that helpful, but I'm not here to be a financial advisor. If you're doing this as more of a relationship oriented, then bottom line is you're going to get really deep, and it'll probably make you feel like you're dying in a way, or drowning. You're drowning in your emotion. That's the trap this day, Monday. So there's a lot of heavy energies on Monday, the 13th. And that's why I called it the hangover day. Hangover from probably the fun that you had on Venus and Mars coming together, because now they're sort of coming apart. They're 4 degrees away from each other now. That energy is sort of separating. That's still a conjunction, but it's looser. And maybe was that quick energy that we felt. And so a lot of people impulsively reacted. And it's a Monday, right? So heck, with all that impulsive energy and all that discomfort associated with oppositions and inconjuncts, I wouldn't be surprised if people really feel hungover this day. That's why I called it that day. Tuesday the 20th, July 20th, we have a tendency to overdo the fun and the pleasure. And that might be coming from trying to reinvigorate those emotions that you had before, the good positive swirls of energy before, and trying to recreate that energy. And that's a losing battle with Leo. Leo should rather go look for newness, look for something not new to replace the high that you had. That would be like an addictive cycle. But look as a child around you. Look with wonderment. Look with creativity. You can create something new with that energy, as opposed to trying to get yourself back to a high that you had before, a fleeting high. That's an addictive cycle. So, and that's what I bring with you is Jupiter. It's just that possibility of excess. So watch out for it. Wednesday, the 21st. This is the last of the youthful folly, because Venus is just about ready to go into Virgo. And this is where Virgo gets a lot more responsible. It's not just, just free willy, do whatever you want. And it's fun. Everything's fun and exciting. So there's like, oh crap, I've got to get this done. And I've let this off my list, and I've got to get things going. It's a lot of responsibility. With easy trine over to the moon. Moon makes a square over to Neptune. I normally don't talk about the moon, and we'll do the same here. Notice that the sun and Neptune are technically still within that trine. We have a new trine here, but it takes over at the very end. It's easy energy between rational mind and fantasy. So whatever that looks like for you, you might be easily misconstruing your words. You might easily be able to write a comic strip or a comic book if you're a writer, or if you're into that sort of thing. This is easy for art. It's not my favorite art alignment, but this would be great for some sort of music or art creation. But anyway, the sun and Neptune are still in a trine, so that energy is still there. Why is it not show up in my chart? Because on the back side of alignments, I've got it ending at 4 degrees instead of 8 degrees, because I don't want it too gobbled up, but it's still there. So it runs the entire week. All right, let's get into the solution. Nope, sorry. This is the influence and solution. It just so happens that there's no change lines, and that's why 35, hexagram 35, fire over earth, means easy progress, is both the influence and the solution. We've already established that the trine is part of the influence because it's easy progress. It's the only easy progress this week. So this is what it talks about, and we'll get into some solutions in here as well. The situation is one of easy, natural progress. What has been weak is ascending, and by gaining prominent position will become more powerful. It is by recognizing and riding with the natural course of events, by hitching our wagon to the rising sun, as it were, that we advance our position and earn respect. Well, interestingly, the sun is part of that main triangle. The sun opposed Pluto, and the sun trine Neptune. So the sun, so hitching that to your identity, if we're trying to mix these words with astrology, attaching that to your ego, and then if you've got the Pluto energy there, transforming it, but it's rising as you go with the flow. A lot of this is going to be subconscious again. And so the action item is to let go of control so that Pluto can help you achieve that new identity. Goodness in human nature is like the dim but beautiful early morning light. However, just as the morning light can be swallowed by the fog, greed, hatred, and other forms of self-absorption can obscure this goodness. Be reminded that progress is achieved most effortlessly when right action is taken without concern for immediate reward. We need to talk about what it means to be unchanging. There's no change lines, so that means remember, progress unseen is still progress. Chin unchanging can show a situation that is stable and growing even while you may not see the progress. Much has been developing underground long before the plant opens its leaves to the sun. There's the sun again. You have to recognize progress even in the face of opposition. You just have to trust the process to arrive at progress. Keep nurturing your vision with optimism while you wait. You see all the themes here? It means sort of let go of control, trust the process, maybe have a plan, nurture your vision. So have a vision, have a plan to get to that vision, and then trust the plan. Ooh, where we heard trust the plan before? Here's the solution, folks. So I just kept on hammering home the sun opposed Pluto. This happens to be on the 17th. We plot that. It goes into hexagram 6 on the Rave mandala of human design. And then it spits us out right on the cusp of Virgo and Sidereal Leo. So which one do we choose? Well, the sun's coming in from this direction. It's going to stay in 6 all week. But on the early part of the week, it's on the Leo side of that rave. So we're going to use solution of Leo. All right. But first, let's read hexagram 6. It's the gate of friction. Oh, isn't that nice? Friction is all those T-squares. This is the most complex gate of the solar plexus and the most difficult in terms of finding the awareness within the wave. Just so you know, solar plexus is the center of the emotions. It just so happens that all the T-squares were created by the moon, or the emotional metaphor in astrology is solar plexus. So one and the same. These overlaps are incredible. But it also contains the awareness possibilities of all 3 streams of emotional awareness: feeling, emoting, sensitivity. Bottom line, when we get into the lines, it's line 3, but the overall hexagram says conflict. There's the T-squares. It's amazing. Allegiance, the ability to secure support and create strength out of a weak position. When connected to the harmonic gate 59 mating that results in conception. Disregard that. That's just human design. That doesn't apply here. But the Neptune, there's Neptune again, increment says the destruction of old forms through union, either mundane as above, sexual union, or exalted as universalization. The depth of feelings that can enrich union and intimacy. That is the fundamental design component of progress. The law that growth cannot exist without friction. And in this case, it's working out the kinks between other people. But before we can do that, we have to work out the identity, the self-identity, the self-acceptance piece. And that's being done under the radar in the subconscious this week, with or without your approval, with or without your awareness. It's happening. So let's get into the solution. And here's our solution slide. It's the hidden rebirth of self. Are you ready for a rebirth? That's the influence, and you may not even feel it. So here's what you do. Here's the solution. We have the I-Ching 35. That's recognizing progress even in the face of opposition. Trust the plan. Letting go of control. Rave mandala is the gate of friction, fundamental design component of progress. The ability to secure support and create a strength out of a weak position. And then we have Sidereal Leo, which is great for creating strength and creating connections. Very optimistic. It's very charismatic and friendly. So all that matches and makes it easy to triangulate. Remember, Venus and Mars still represent number 2 this week, but aids in the easy progress. It's not just that one trine that's easy. It's also Venus and Mars. They also increase the fun you'll have at that progress. But nothing is more important than settling into your own identity, your own skin. That's the Sun opposed Pluto in Cancer. Sun in Cancer opposed Pluto. And finding your inner power. This week is about seeing the obvious complexity everywhere, and you can choose to not be in said complexity. I don't think I ever mentioned that before. That's an important one. You remember all those spaghetti lines? It's going to feel chaotic out there, and it seems very complex. But you can choose to not be in that complexity. Instead, change your perspective to glass half full, see the silver lining, recognize progress, trust the plan, etc. According to the rave, the friction present in life is the fundamental component for progress. You can sit here and be the observer of all the friction everywhere, but knowing that that's still progress. And I really mean that. Invoke your best Leo, friendly, charismatic, optimistic to secure support. The fire energy of Leo allows you to create strength out of a weak position. Watch out for overthinking this week. Remember all those adjustments. Remember all those spaghetti lines and adjustments and adaptions and to create stress. When humans get stressed, they think, they overthink. So reduce your stress this week. Watch for your thoughts. I wouldn't spend a lot of time in mind, in Mercury. I would spend more time in trusting mode, going with the flow. It's not a yin state. It's not a yin state. So you can plan, you can create, but it's not being stagnant. It's a state of mind. The state of mind is trust the plan. You remember, to have a plan, to trust the plan, you need to have a plan. So that's all in here too. Leo's creative, Leo's charismatic, energetic. So they're not all that great at future work. So you have to sort of push yourself into the future, create the vision based on your values, based on what's important to you, create a plan on getting there, and then invoke the plan, do the plan. For things outside of your control, trust the plan. And create strength in any weak position. That's a very yang thing. So there's a lot of yang here, just because our mindset is to sort of change your perspective and recognize progress, even when is it diluting yourself? No, because most weeks we don't do that. We're more realistic in our sights. This week we're looking at our vision. We're creating the plan, getting there, and then reduce your stress. Watch the tension around you, but don't be a part of it. Just do your thing. Trust the plan. Go about your business. And make sure you watch for identity changes, because that's also the influence. Notice that identity and ego is not really anywhere in the solution. It's more of the influence. You're going to see that influence manifesting more by how well you do these behaviors, rather than trying to invoke an identity change in yourself. Just let it happen. It's part of the process. It's deeply subconscious too. All right, folks, that's all I've got. Big shout out to all of you. Thanks for your likes and shares. And, we're doing great. We're right where we need to be. And that's a very CIRF comment for this week. We're right where we need to be. So take care, and we'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.